Hello everyone, I'm Traci Derwin, and in today's video, I'm going to be making a case to prove that some of these large platforms that we see here on YouTube and on Spotify are actually psychological operations. And I'm going to be using the Sean Ryan show as an example, and I have some pretty convincing evidence that this is the case, at least now it is. So I first started to, catch on to this after the Cybertruck incident, or the botched false flag incident that happened on January 1st of 25. But first, I'm gonna show some clips and images of Sean before the botched false flag and then after. And I noticed this pretty early on. He kind of looks different. He seems to have like a heaviness over him, like something on his mind. The left is him before, and the right is more recent. And after the Cybertruck incident, he went on hiatus. He even said that he's going into hiding and he won't be controlling his channel. And then he came back and he had changed. To me, it was obvious, but to really solidify that point, I'm going to show how he did a 180 on one of the topics that he was very passionate about, and that is the topic of anti-gravitic craft and trying to find out what they are and if the U.S. military is in possession of them. So here is one interview he did with Michael Herrera, who witnessed one of these craft when he was on a mission.
So you crest this hill.
Yep.
You look down into the valley.
Yep.
And there's a clearing.
There's a clearing
with a UAP.
Yes.
Just sitting there.
Sitting there, hovering. Rotating clockwise. Yep. And that's in transition, this color spectrum I was telling you too. And that's why it's something that stuck out. It's not a building, it's not something that you're used to seeing. Maybe topside it could have looked like a building or something that, I don't know. I don't have that perspective. I wasn't a pilot or anything, but I can tell you from our point of view, it's something that it looked very unnatural and abnormal. And that's what got our curiosity to go investigate this. Now, normally because we would have had comms, you're damn right we'd have called it in. And
how close did you get?
To the craft?
To the craft.
Roughly 200 meters, 150, 200.
Did you get to the bottom of the hill?
Yes.
So you could see, so you saw the top of it, and then you could see underneath of it.
And underneath of it had this platform that was on the ground that was separate from this craft hovering. And it was very weird to see, and I was like, okay, I don't know if that's kind of like a cement pad or something. I don't know if it was like a helo pad or anything like that at first, but then started seeing how the material kind of looked very similar to what the craft was. It's like, well, that's separate. So you have something that's on the ground, stationary, and then you have something that's up top, and it's just rotating in a clockwise position.
So that was the old Sean, and here is him on Tucker more recently and on the topic of the Cybertruck and the anti-gravitic craft.
Like I said, I think he wanted to bring attention to the topics that he had, and
the anti-gravity,
the anti-gravitic propulsion system, and we looked into that, and all we could find is sci-fi shit. But
do you think any of it's real? I mean, you've interviewed people. In fact, the first show I ever saw of yours was with a building contractor who said he ran across anti-gravity technology in a military facility.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do I think anti-gravitic propulsion systems are real? Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
do you think there are significant technologies, next generation energy, anti-gravity, that the U.S. government
100%. I mean, yes, I do. I think that all this alien extraterrestrial shit, I mean, it's fun to dig down there, but I mean, I think it's a big distraction. I don't know if it's meant to be some type of a controlled op, but I think it is. I think all this stuff is spiritual. That's what I think.
Of course it is.
I think all this stuff is spiritual. All these things that people are seeing and stuff. I think there's a spirituality component to it. Now,
that these are angels and demons, or
yeah,
what?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And where was I going with this? And
So to his-
anti-gravitic propulsion systems. I mean, yeah, I would hope that we have shit that is next generation stuff that's not, the same shit we've been using since World War II.
So yeah, now he's saying it's all spiritual. And he's not completely wrong. I think there are a number of things causing these phenomena. I do think there are spiritual craft or energies we're seeing, but I do think some of these are physical craft that the military dark projects have and have had for some time. So, he's not wrong, but he's trying to simplify it and say that it's all this one thing when he knows very well that it's not just that one thing. He's interviewed many people that have witnessed these craft, and not the spiritual kind, like ones at the military base and so forth. Okay, and so I'll really quickly go into what the botched Cybertruck incident was. So a man named Matt Livensberger, who was a Green Beret, he drove a rented Cybertruck to the Trump Tower in Vegas and exploded the inside. It didn't go outside of the truck because it's meant to not. The only person that was hurt or unalived was him, and they did find his passport. And this kind of reminds me of the passport they found after those towers came down. But what really set off the botched part is that he sent to a number of channels and people this email. So this is before the incident. And he was saying that, he's not under distress. He's being followed. He wanted to let people know about the, anti-gravity propulsion, these that some of the UFOs were from China, and also of a war crime that he witnessed in Afghanistan in 2019. Now, Sean Ryan featured that in a show, and I'll link that below. And I did a video on that because to me, that was really exciting that a big platform was catching on to this. But, things didn't go that well, and, things have changed since. But the official manifesto from this Green Beret was released later after the event by, I think CNN broke this. And this is what they said that he wrote. And it's just basically pushing the left-right divide, trying to get us to hate each other even more. Now, I was watching an interview on a channel called Polarity, and he had a whistleblower. He goes by the name of Gray, and he was in these programs from a child and into his adulthood, but now he's fighting back and trying to expose what's going on, behind the scenes, what the globalists and what the cabal is doing and how they control the narrative or how they control our perception of what's happening. And to tie it into the content that I've been making with the disasters, this is the same power that's doing that as well. That's deciding, where these fires happen, where these storms, are sent. So this is just another arm of their control mechanism, I guess. And I do want to play the clip of Gray just kind of summing up how the system works.
He has a handler. To me, that sounds like he's potentially tied into some kind of program. I don't know. Is it behavioral modification? Is that sort of what you were alluding to?
Oh, I mean, Sean 100% is an asset. This is beyond a shadow of a doubt. People need to understand, one is, if you have your number one show that targets a military-age male demographic, do you think that the powers that be aren't going to want their hands on that, right? Another thing is you have to understand, so like Tier 1 operatives, Sean is a former Tier 1 operative. I'm not sure if you know what Tier 1 is, but it's like our highest trained military personnel. biggest budgets go to them. SEAL Team 6, Delta Force, things like this. So, there's already like these people, again, they'll be on very sensitive missions. They have classified information that they can't leak. It could cause damage to national security. They need to be in the frame of mind to be as efficient and as capable as possible, right? You don't want interference. They might be dealing with very expensive equipment, right? It's very high priority, very, very important stuff. So like these people are typically go through some sort of conditioning, whether it's full-blown Manchurian candidate level behavior modification or whether it's just strict mental conditioning. I mean, part of the whole selection and training process is mental conditioning, right? And it happens on a spectrum. But then some of these people actually are full-blown Manchurian candidates. The whole full-blown Manchurian candidate stuff isn't just the U.S. military. Just to be clear, the people running these programs are globalists. And the people with the true access codes and activation codes are globalists. The United States military personnel typically won't have that unless if that specific personnel is part of a globalist order, because they use that Manchurian candidate aspect to have a back door. That way, hey, now I have a mole in Delta Force. I have a mole in SEAL Team 6, and I can tap them for information, and we can know what's going on in these programs. Because, yeah, they have people, but they don't have people everywhere. They don't run every program from A to Z, so they just have certain people that they groom as children and then enter them into programs, and they know the criteria, and then they have their guy that's in there, and the guy doesn't even know that they're their guy. So then they only have a certain life. As a tier 1 operative, right? They only have a certain life. You only can be combat ready for so long. You eventually get aged out, injured, whatever. Then they've invested a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of resources into these people. So what do they want? They want to prolong the life of their asset. What can we do now? We transition them to media.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what happened with Sean and also potentially his team, his producers. I'm going to play a clip now of Gray talking about the interaction he had with one of the Sean Ryan Show producers. This happened before the Cybertruck incident. And live, when we're seeing this text exchange, he comes to the realization that he was part of one of these clandestine operations or programs.
So yeah, I had reached out. This is when I decided to go back public. I had reached out and was like, hey, I'm not sure if you want to get into the weeds of this, but actually, I know some people that know Sean too, blah, 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 blah. It's like, hey, I was brought up in this clandestine program, blah, 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 blah. So the person, essentially, I sent them this spiel about it. And the person was like, I think this happened to me, and I was like, oh my God. And then, basically was listening to him and going back and forth, and you'll see, you can see, because I only released some of the messages, but you can see they talk about code green. That's Omega programming. And they talked about almost offing themselves, because this is what happens. If certain aspects come up, basically that's the solution. It's called a fail safe, right?
Right. He goes on about, how this whole thing works. There's a lot of moving parts. But he does explain that when this producer realizes that, he was a part of this, they separated him from Sean immediately and sent him to the Monroe Institute. And that is the place that I've heard this in other interviews, like with, I know Eric Hecker brought this up at the time. I didn't understand what it was, but that is where the MK Ultra programs were based at. I'm going to play this one more clip of him discussing, I guess, his interaction with the Sean Ryan Show.
These messages with this Sean Ryan producer, he says, it was literally the word green. That's what was screaming in my brain. I heard it clearly. I went and got my pistol and disassembled it and locked it away from myself. I was so afraid that I would do it in my sleep. Now, when I read that, I didn't really understand what that meant. Like, why would he think he would do it in his sleep? But what you're explaining kind of makes a lot more sense now.
And they just instinctively knew it, because this person did not understand how the programming worked or anything like that. The reason they're referring to green is because often there's different aspects, and I don't want to get too much of it publicly because there's some sick people out there, but there's layered protocols. That way, like, stuff doesn't get set off accidentally, right? because otherwise you'd have people left and right getting activated, right, with their Manchurian candidate programming. But there's a lot of this is linked to stuff in early childhood, you know, when the split personalities are made and stuff like this and the compartments are made. It's prelingual. Like that's why stuff gets embedded in your formative years so early. So a lot of it has to do with shapes and colors.
All right, he goes into a lot of detail on how these things are instilled in children so that they are more susceptible to these programs and to the mind control. So I have another, I guess, piece of supporting evidence, but I did want to share an experience that I had when I was a teenager, and this memory always stuck with me. And you know, I've always kind of understood that the idea of mind control is very real and is not that difficult to do. When I was in high school, we had a picnic and we had a hypnotist come as our entertainment or to learn something. He put a group of students on stage and put them under hypnosis and got, not all of them, but a group of them were officially hypnotized, and he got them, you know, he'll snap his finger, he got them to do all these things. He even got them to smell something, and then when he was wrapped up, he commanded them to come out of it. And most of us in the audience couldn't understand, like, how did that happen? It just seems unbelievable. So we thought maybe they were acting. But I did talk to one of the guys, like, what was that about? Like, what were you doing? And he said, no, I was really hypnotized. And yeah, I kind of knew what I was doing, but it was almost like I was, something was automatically getting him to do these things. And I'm like, did you smell something when they said you were going to smell something bad? And he said, yes. And I guess that really stuck with me because I saw firsthand the power of hypnosis and mind control and how powerful it could be. And, you know, it could be used for good, but I can see how it could be used for a lot of bad things. And, you know, seeing some of the things that is happening right now, it's not too much of a stretch to think that some of these patsies were in one of these programs. And then something more recently that I saw, this just happened yesterday on the Sean Ryan show. He interviewed Brian Harpo, who was a head of security for Charlie Kirk during the assassination. And, you know, he came on and, you know, gave the false narrative that I guess most of us know that the narrative they're giving is not true. But he came on and he, you know, gave those lies some more, and Sean didn't really call him out on it. He didn't ask the tough questions. But what really, you know, gave me the confidence to make this video and to put it out there were the chat, the live chat, and the comments. It's almost all negative. And here someone is saying, this is the official PSYOP channel. It means so many. You know, I came to the comment section to drop this whole interview as suspect and can't find a single comment that finds this interview as legit. So that tells me that people are starting to catch on. I think it's becoming a little bit more common. You know, if you're paying attention, it's becoming common. I'm hoping it becomes more common knowledge that the propaganda is not simply on the mainstream networks. It's also on YouTube and, you know, Spotify. And I think it's very important that we are aware of this, you know, and I'll close out with this. Ironically, Sean Ryan just started a series on PSYOPs. And this was the Y-Files. They also did a PSYOP episode. But I do think this is also part of the false narrative. I watched a little bit of the Chase Hughes interview. This was a few days ago. Chase Hughes is a behavioral specialist, you know, like kind of changes behavior and helps with motivation. And he's really big on PSYOPs, and he does give a lot of good information. But I heard him saying things like, we don't know much about the brain. We don't even understand what the brain does and what it's about and what consciousness is about and how that is connected, and basically saying like, we don't know anything about this, when I know very well they do know about this. They understand how the brain works. And when I say they, I mean the powers that be, the cabal that control the world. They understand consciousness, and they have been using this as a tool for a very long time. And this knowledge has been hidden from us regular people, because if we all understood it, that would give us a lot of power. It's very powerful. And these secrets have been kept in secret societies that takes a long time to get to that point where you really learn how to master these things. And I do think we're starting to see a little bit of this and starting to understand how it works. But I really wanted to make this video because I want more people to really understand that the world is a stage. Like what we see in the media, for the most part, have an ulterior motive, and it's not all for that. There are like Sean does just regular content that I don't think is programmed, but a lot of what we're seeing and a lot of what we're told about the world is false and is part of the propaganda machine. So I think that's going to do it. I hope I made a strong case for how this all works. And I guess the main message is to just be aware, be very conscious of the messages you're hearing and the sources you're getting them from. Look into the background of these people, what they did before and how they could be connected to the cabal or, forces that are behind the veil. And please share this video so we can let as many people know what's really going on.